Hi there. Welcome back to another English 102 video. I'm hoping that by the time that you watch this that you have found at least one of your academic journal articles. There's a lot of module materials prior to this video that are designed to help you find academic journal articles because, of course, in the annotated bibliography, you will need to find 7 different sources and provide citations and annotations for each source. Of course, we said you can reuse some or all of the sources from your initial research findings paper if you like. But of those 7 sources in the annotated bibliography, at least 2 of them must be academic journal articles. And the reason for that, as you'll see, right, as you look at your academic journal articles, is that they provide data. They do studies, they do research, and they provide data, and then they analyze it, right? And you need that data for our final paper of the semester, the data commentary paper. That's why you need at least 2 academic journal articles for the annotated bibliography. Of course, you've got some other sources too, though. I don't think you should try to make all of the sources academic journal articles. Because here's the thing. I'm thinking ahead to the last paper, right? And you're going to show the reader the data you found in those journals and comment on it. We'll talk about how to do that later. But for your reader to really make sense of that data, for them to really understand anything, you need to give them some background information on your subtopic. They need to understand the discussion that is surrounding your subtopic. I'll give you an example, right? We have someone in the opioid epidemic group that is looking at harm reduction that found, I believe she found an academic journal article about whether needle exchanges are effective in terms of reducing overdoses. They have some data that can be interpreted to suggest whether they are effective or not. Right. Well, I mean, none of that means anything to your reader if they don't know what a needle exchange clinic is. Right. None of that means anything to your reader if they don't understand the role of needle exchanges in this broader treatment methodology called harm reduction. Right. And the idea is that these are terms and ideas that you're coming across as you're reading sources, and you want to be a diligent researcher and do the work to understand these terms and so that you can explain them to your reader in the final paper, right? So I'm trying to help you understand what the other sources in that annotated bibliography are for. This is why I said, you want a mixture of informational and opinionated sources, right? Informational sources are great for giving you facts about the subtopic. And indeed, lots of you asked insightful questions in the initial research findings paper connected to the subtopic, right? And so informational articles will help you answer those. Some of you will find debate surrounds your subtopic. The needle exchange subtopic is another good one there, right? There is debate about, some people don't want these in their community, right? So obviously there can be vociferous debate about things like that. I think you get the idea, right? And I could tell from the questions that you asked at the end of your initial research findings paper that you're dug into the topic, right? And I did write you feedback on there to help you along in terms of identifying a subtopic in case you don't already have one in mind. But I think that lots of people are connecting the dots with that. So look, let's go ahead and talk about where to find some of these sources. You'll see most of the content after this video is all about different places to find informational and opinionated sources. There's also some videos about that in prior modules too. And there's even some additional help with academic journal articles in case you haven't already found one. But all of the other videos talk about, most of them I believe talk about library databases. I do want to show you some stuff on Google real briefly here. All right, so again, I'm anticipating that you might be able to use Google to find some effective sources to use in your annotated bibliography. Sometimes when you've got a real focused question that you want to answer, the Google search engine works a little better than the library, right? But the problem is that a lot of the articles you find on Google are not at the right level for an academic reader. A lot of times they might be accurate, but they're very brief, they're very superficial, they're designed for websites that are based around profiting by clicks as opposed to informing you like a legitimate journalism outlet. All right, so let's go ahead and look at that. As you can see here, which article is appropriate to use for an academic reader? So I've got answers written out, but I do think that people like the interactive components, so that's why I'm doing it this way. There's 3 different articles here, and these 2 were found on Google. This one's from the library. Let's see which of these is appropriate to use for an academic reader. Okay, you might have to sign in. It'll ask for your MEID. It already asked me for that. So when you look at this, you think, oh, it's in the library, right? It's got to be good. Oh, that's my parrot. I'm very sorry. I'll introduce you to him at the end. So you think, oh, I found this in the library. It must be a good source. Done. We're good to go. It's about plastic pollution. Well, then you start to ask some questions, right? What is this thing, right? When you're thinking about the C in crap testing, it's certainly current, right? So that's pretty good. Let's talk about the R. Let's talk about relevance. Does this look like something, again, I'm not even reading it, I'm just scanning it. Does this look like something that is long enough that it's going to be useful in your paper? Probably not. It's pretty short. And then you scan the thing and you say, well, what is it? A letter to the editor. Well, you might not have heard of that, right? But lots of newspapers and periodicals have this thing where you can write as a community member. So this could be like you or me. You can write a letter to the editor, and sometimes they will publish it. Very similar to how a lot of opinionated articles in the newspaper will allow reader comments, right? So my point is that that's part of the reason it's so short. And so then we start to think about the A in crap testing. We start thinking about authority, right? And we think about, okay, who is this guy? His name is John Tilsiter, and he's from Radlet. Right. I'm not even going to bother trying to look this guy up on the internet. It's a letter to the editor. He doesn't have any credibility to write about this topic. He doesn't have any more authority to write about this than you or I do. This is not someone you want to cite in an academic paper. We don't even need to look at the other letters of crap testing. This is not a source you want to use. And I wanted to show you this because sometimes things like this happen when you're doing library searches. All right, let's look at the next one. I believe this one often will come up in your top 10, pardon me, your first page worth of hits from Google. All right, so let's take a look at this. It has information about plastic. Very interesting. Looks like some products. Something about zero waste restaurants. You notice the articles are very short, right? Guest post. What does that mean? That gives you a clue right there, as does the layout over here. This is a blog, right? And it says right in the crap testing Prezi, along with the stale Gandalf meme, do not use blogs without checking with the instructor. Why? Well, here's the thing. When we scan it, we see that most of the things here are pretty short. They're not in depth, right? And then we start to see, well, there's a lot of products that she reviews, right? And the more you dig into the site, you realize she gets paid to review these products, which creates some problems in terms of her credibility. There's nothing wrong with her doing that, right? But it suggests it's probably not the most authoritative source for you to cite. Does she have some authority to write about this topic? She does, right? If you dig into it, if you click more through the website, you'll see she's done a TEDx talk. But when you have to kind of think about crap testing on a continuum, right? Does she have more or less authority than most of the sources you could find in the library? Less. right? She has less authority than a lot of other sources out there. This is not a source that I would use. And indeed, it says blog right in the URL. They don't always, right? Watch out for things that say Blogspot or Weebly. Those are blogs, and you have to pay extra attention to whether they are authoritative, the A in crap testing. Last article. Now, this one used to work better because as a quiz, right? Because a lot of students didn't know what the CDC was 2 years ago. A lot of people in general didn't, right? But unfortunately, with COVID-19, everybody knows who the CDC is. So I'm sure when you saw that, you thought, oh, that must be credible. That's the agency, that the government that we've heard a great deal about lately, giving us advice about things, how to stay safe, right? But let's pretend you didn't know that, right? And you see this, sometimes students feel like, well, geez, it doesn't have an author. I don't know what this is. It doesn't have a date at the bottom. Oh, actually, it does. Some of these government websites don't. That's why I said that. But this one actually does have a date at the bottom. But here's the thing. This is highly credible, right? And so first, currency. It does indeed have the date. Level, well, there's a pretty fair amount of facts here devoted to sustainability. And when you read it, it seems complex enough. It's not superficial. Authority, well, who are the CDC? Well, let's just click on them and see. Right? Oh, gracious, there's that thing. When you go to the bottom, then you can learn more once we get past all this coronavirus stuff. You can find the About CDC button, and they will tell you exactly who they are, right? And then you find out, okay, this is a government organization that's part of DHS. They're tasked with keeping all of us safe, right? These are very credible people. And indeed, the third article there is credible enough to use in your paper. Right? So the takeaway here is, yes, you can find some good articles on the internet. In fact, this CDC one, because it's updated so frequently, I think it would be hard for you to find in the library, right? So there are great articles you can find on Google, but you have to apply that crap test, or you're going to end up with some junk. And that's a problem, not just because you'll lose points for it on the annotated bibliography, but also because then you'll have to change it out. You potentially will have to find another source to replace it before you write the last paper. All right, I think that's all I got. I am hoping that the first part of this video helped you get more confident about what kind of sources you should be looking for, and literally almost all of the rest of the materials after this video are all about just how to use different databases to find sources. If you are running into difficulties, please message me. I'm happy to help. We can work together to use the databases to find sources that will help you. Part of what I like about this assignment is that your subtopic is kind of driven by the op-ed and your own ideas, and so it's kind of different every semester, and I enjoy partnering with students to help when they need it. I did promise you that you could meet the fluffy chicken making all that noise in the background. Let me see if he's ready to talk to you. Well, I'm very sorry. He doesn't want to say hello right now. If you've ever owned a parrot or been around one, they're kind of like a very small child. It's difficult to make them do things, and as you can see, he has a rather large beak there. So he does bite if I try to make him do something he doesn't want to do. He's sort of a rescue animal. I don't encourage parrot ownership or the breeding of them, but he was in a difficult situation, and so we're now taking care of him. Anyhow, I just thought you should know who's making all that noise because you may hear him in a video in the future. If I can get him to come out in the future, I'll make sure that he says hello to you. That's all I've got, and like I said, definitely message me if you have any questions. Talk to you later. Bye.